Hello and welcome to Dentistry to Business, the Dental CEO podcast where data meets strategy and leadership transforms practices. I am Caroline Bell-Minturn, a proud dental clinic owner, creator of cutting-edge dental analytic systems, and a mentor to ambitious dental professionals like you. This is the show where we dive into the metrics and science of building thriving multi-seven-figure and beyond dental practices. Whether you're looking to master analytics, lead with confidence, or scale your clinic without sacrificing quality, you are in the right place. Let's decode the numbers, unlock your potential, and create a legacy practice that you've always dreamed of. Ready to lead the industry? Let's succeed together. Hello and welcome to Dentistry to Business. I'm here today with one of my favorite people in the world, Michelle Jones. She is a fabulous treatment coordinator, somebody that I admire and inspires me all the time. Not only does she have a heart of gold, she also brings a gold mine to the practices she works for. So welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much for being here. And Michelle, why don't you tell everybody who you are, where you are, and what you do?
So I'm Michelle Jones, and I live in Clifton Springs, New York. It's the Finger Lakes area of New York, upstate. And I moved here about 7 years ago, and I'm from Canada. And I used to work with Caroline back in the day, didn't we? For years.
We had too much fun.
So I landed a job with a really great company, the Finger Lakes Dental Company in Canandaigua, New York. Yeah. Which I am a treatment plan coordinator there.
Yes, and Michelle's been doing treatment plan coordinating for most of her career. She started off as a registered dental assistant, and the doctor she was working with seen a lot of potential in Michelle and what she was doing, because she kind of created this treatment coordinating position from being an assistant, and he recognized that she was really good at convincing the patients of the specific needs that they were recommended and having that really great interpersonal relationship. So she was able to elevate herself in that practice, and then when she moved to the United States, she was able to land a really fabulous job with the company she's with now. And I think you are absolutely an exception to the rule. You are somebody who, as many years as you've done treatment coordinating, I've never seen anybody duplicate what you do.
Well, I have to say I owe a lot to Don Foster, who got me going on this, because I was his dental assistant for 10 years maybe, and I was horrible. I was a horrible dental assistant. I would get distracted. He would get mad at me. But what I was doing was I was looking at the patients thinking, would it ever look nice if they crowned that front tooth and maybe did the next three beside it? Wouldn't that look good? And I would say that to the doctor when he walked in the room, and he'd look at me. Next thing you know, we had the patient scheduled the following week, and we were doing like a whole makeover on them. So it just naturally came to me. I was able to look at somebody's smile and see, I knew what we could do to make it better.
Yeah, and I always found that with you, Michelle, when we work together. Like, you're very passionate about accepting that value to the patient and teaching them that value of the treatment prior to even talking about the cost or any sort of requirements that it might take to do it. So the educational component for you, I think, is what really makes you stand out. And you also can see the patient and kind of their needs and say it in like a delicate way, in a way that's not kind of insulting or, takes the patient back. It's just a, hey, this would look so nice on you. And the way that you do it, it just seems to flow. So what would be kind of your tips to tell people, how do you do that?
Well, I've gotten away from that now, because now we've got a team in place that does that for me. So they're highly efficient office, and we're all kind of separated into pods. So each doctor has 2 assistants and a treatment coordinator. So between the doctor and the 2 assistants, they have have a room where they do all of the educating, and they're very, very good at that. They've got, before and afters to show them, pamphlets to show each, like a printout that they can take home with them. So by the time I get them, and they're given ballpark figures.
Okay.
So before I get them, the patient knows ballpark, which is really important in selling the treatment. They have to know, like, you can't sell a $30,000 treatment if the patient thinks it's going to be 2,000, because they really, a lot of times, patients have no idea.
Right. So you think that making sure that they kind of have a ballpark idea in their head, that by the time they get to you, they're able to
Yeah,
ask really specific questions and kind of make sure that they have that fulfilled information before they go home. Okay.
yeah.
And I think that's actually really unique because a lot of people don't talk about finances in the operatory. I know a lot of people will talk finances, at a treatment coordinating station, or, if there's like a closed door, of course, like some
Yeah,
conversation will happen in the operatory. But I think that's a really unique perspective of making sure that the patient is really informed and making sure that they have that informed decision making tool before they even walk into your room.
I think it really helps, because I have them say, like, it's rare that my patients go on that call list. I feel like that call list is the dooms list. They're booked before they leave. So it's it's working. So
Okay.
I highly recommend doing that.
And do you think that's kind of what the secret
Hmm.
sauce is in getting them to pre-book the treatment that day? It's to just know that they have all of that informed information before they even
Um,
get to you.
and having, I mean, the U.S. and Canada is very different.
Yes.
Um, I find Canadians are much more insurance influenced, where Americans, there's all these financial options that they can take. Like, we've got two companies where they can apply for 0% financing for 24 months. I mean, it's free money.
Right.
So that helps them kind of split that up. And then we also have a loan that we do, but it's high interest.
Okay. And I think that that would make a huge difference because as we know, finances is always one of the financial is always one of the concerns for the patient. So you're kind of eliminating that aspect for the patient, helping them still with their insurance, but whatever is outstanding from that can be financed. And like you said, at 0% for 24 months, that's a substantial amount of time for people to be
And
able
there's
to.
nothing that they can't do.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that that would be definitely one of the biggest factors compared to Canada is we're not quite in that realm yet as the United States is. And especially when I talk to colleagues from the US, they do offer a lot of these financial plans. So that's definitely something that I find very interesting in these case acceptance because you guys are doing a lot of big cases and it's not just like one or two a month. You're doing multiple a week.
Yeah. Most of the cases that I do are 10,000 and up. So some of these people don't have any problem paying it, and then other people, when you get into the higher ones, you
Mhm.
know, my top ones that I do are like 58,000. So not a lot of people do that without some sort of financing.
Right.
Even if it's just, a lot of them can come up with half of it, so then I help with the balance of it.
Yeah, and the option to close that gap. And what would you say to another treatment coordinator if they were running into some resistance around the financial side of it? So if they have a patient that is resisting a treatment plan completely just due to finances, what would be some scripting or some areas that you would recommend to them?
I don't really have one. I'm sorry.
That's
Because
okay.
I always have an option,
Right.
I don't really run into it because if you have the financing all in place for them, that's usually all they need. So the answer is usually always yes.
I think
So I
that's
think
really
it's a
important.
huge, yeah, they always say yes because everybody can afford a payment. The one, I guess my biggest challenge would be the ones that don't have good credit and
Mm,
I can't get them financing. I Those are the ones that stump me.
yeah.
So you can't help everybody, but we can help most. And they even have like when you buy a dress on Sheen and you can do 4 payments and afterpay. Do you have that in Canada, right?
Yes, they have that
They
here.
With this one finance company we use, they have kind of the same thing, afterpay set up. So maybe 4 payments. Do you guys do any kind of in-house payment plans where they can pay?
It
Oh,
d- it depends on the practice. When I'm working with different practices, a lot of the owners will decide kind of their own financial plans that they're comfortable with. In our practice, specifically that we have financial planning for long-term patients that we know that we have a good rapport with them. We understand kind of where they're at financially,
right.
and then we create a financial plan that
Yeah,
both people are comfortable with, but we don't use an outside company to
yeah,
help finance the treatment. And I just find this so interesting because I think that this is an amazing option for patients and practices because, like you said, this is the
yeah. And we have with the one company, the money's deposited the next day in our bank account. So I there's there is a small fee that we pay, but it's worth the fee. And then after you do so many of them, that fee keeps going down even more. But it would be nice if you could find some sort of company that in Canada that would
offer.
help out with that.
Yeah. And I think another
Hmm.
aspect of this too, because I mean, you are crediting a lot of this to having financial help with, payment options for people. But I've worked with you and I know you are
Yeah.
like a unicorn. And there's not every Michelle out there. So I would love you to talk a little bit about how you use your emotional intelligence and your intuition, and how you are such a people reader. You can walk in the room and know the right thing to say to the right person. Like this is just it's like in you. And I think that this is something that is so unique.
It
And
is.
I'd love for you to kind of explore and talk because I think people think, oh, it's so woo woo, but like it's real. Like intuitive business planning is a lot of what I do. I do a lot of my business ideas and goal setting and planning through intuition. And I also try to help teach a little bit of that.
Hmm.
And I know that you do this. So I'd love for you to kind of talk to that.
Well, I I think just working with people for so long, I can just tell where they're at. You never know a person's story until they sit down. You know, you often wonder, how did they get into this position in the first place? Well, not everybody has the same life. You've got to sit and listen to them. Really, and then I feel like they just trust you. And a lot of it is building trust with the patient and um, letting them know that they're being heard. But I think, um, yeah, it's just, I'm losing my words here.
That's okay. I think I could answer that for you just from what you said, because basically what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you literally combine your confidence in what you do with being so compassionate towards people. And
Yeah.
that's kind of your like a high ticket.
That's all.
treatment discussion right there. You're combining like the passion that you have and the compassion with what their need is, and you're very confident
Yeah,
in what that person is being offered. You can express it well.
that's very true. And I think if you're finding like it hard to find that great treatment coordinator, I think I feel like I was born to do this and it just comes so naturally to me. It's hard for me to describe to somebody how I do it. But the only thing I can say is it's just a like my intuition. Like I just know what that person needs and I know how to give it to them. And that's what I do.
Yeah.
My boss will say, "How do you do this?" And I'm like, "I don't know."
I know
I
what he
don't know
means
the
because
answer.
I've worked with you for years, and we all would be like, Michelle, she's like her secret potion back there. I don't know what she's given to the patients, but you just have a way of making people feel so calm and comforted and understood. And I think you just genuinely take the time to get to know people as humans, and you can always put yourself kind of in their
Well,
position
that's
and
a
treat
very
them
good
like
point.
family.
I treat everybody like family. And when you said take the time, I feel like everybody that walks into that place, I treat them like they're my mother, my brother, my sister. And I take the time and listen to their stories. I bring them into my office, and there's no time limit. They can stay as long as they want. Whoever's waiting needs to wait because my time is devoted to them. And I think they really feel that. They're not being rushed at the door. They're not, do you do treatment planning separately? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a dedicated treatment coordinator, but I'll be honest, with the clients I work with, they have a really hard time, not all of them, but some of them have a hard time wrapping their head around having somebody specific for that role. So, what would be your advice for somebody who is having a hard time understanding what that role is, the value in it? Maybe an advice for somebody who does wear multiple hats, whether it be a hygienist, an assistant, or even a doctor. What would be kind of your advice on hiring a treatment coordinator and what value that brings?
It's everything. Like, it's crazy not to have one because they need somebody else that isn't dressed in a white coat that they can really talk to because they tell me a whole different story than they tell the doctor and the assistant. It's just they don't see the value in it, but maybe they're not willing to give up that part of what they do,
Right.
letting go of. You does that make sense?
It does, because I think people automatically walk into the clinic and like there's a white coat syndrome that immediately happens and people are nervous, they're apprehensive. It's a very clinical setting. So you're creating and humanizing an experience for them that they can actually be in their own element and
Mm-hmm.
feel outside of a clinic operation and sit in an office with somebody who's compassionate and understanding and educated, and it gives them a totally different
Yeah,
experience of what the dental office is. And I think it makes it easier. And in my opinion, I mean, you obviously do this, but in my opinion, it gives people kind of a resource to say, okay, they actually care about me here. I'm not just a number. This is somebody who's employed here that's going to take the time
that's
and be
right.
devoted to me as a specific case and answer every sort of question I might need. And you're not rushing them out the door. And I love that because that's creating such a sense of comfort for the patient.
Yeah, and they feel like they love coming. They they always stop by my office and say hi, and I've met some just wonderful people. And I just don't know why you wouldn't want that in your practice.
Yeah, I think a lot
It's
of
like,
people.
Caroline, remember we talked about
Go ahead.
Disney, like
Yes.
giving your patients an experience that they can't get anywhere else. Well, they can walk into any doctor's office any time of the day and get to talk to the doctor about treatment. But why not have someone else talk to them about treatment and spend half an hour with them, 45 minutes with them, however long it takes, they're going to get a $20,000 treatment out of it. So I don't understand why they would be not seeing the value in that.
Yeah, there's always hesitation with HR. I think it's like another employee on the payroll, the stress of having another employee. What does that look like if, the person isn't as successful as somebody like yourself? There's a lot of hesitation. And I think that a lot of it comes from, remember, like dentists don't have business training. So they're not really sure how to measure those things in a way that makes sense. So this is actually where I'd love for you to talk about some of the systems that you get measured in your company to say this is why Michelle's valuable here, and we can see this because we have a system in place and you have your own systems and tracking in place to show the value. So if you want to talk a little bit about your systems, I think that this would be kind of that selling feature of what the treatment coordinator does and how it could easily be tracked and measured.
So, are you talking about the system to track the patients that don't schedule? Is that
Yeah. So you have multiple systems because I know what you do, but yeah, you have ones that the patients that schedule the treatment, you track how much you've billed or how much you production you've put into the schedule. You track maybe the patients that kind of get lost in the shuffle
okay?
because maybe they're not financially not there. Like you have many systems that you're kind of measuring on a day-to-day sort of production, but you also have a system of measuring out the doctors and knowing what production levels they need to hit in a day and where you're at. So,
Mhm.
you play
It's
a
really,
really vital
it's really
role.
important.
Yeah, you play a really vital role in the management aspect
Yeah.
of a business.
It's the job of all of our treatment coordinators. Every doctor, and every doctor's different. Some doctors are, their goal might be 10,000 a day. Some doctors might be $3,000 a day. It just depends on what they're doing. But um, our goal is to get them that every single day, get them to their goal of the $10,000 mark. So I don't leave at the end of the day until those spots are filled. Um, you know, that's a huge thing,
And I would
a
like to
part of
point
what I
out
do.
this is why you're the unicorn because nobody's holding Michelle hostage at her office. She is saying, this is my responsibility. I am taking full control of my job. She has full accountability. And she is making sure that she's achieving that goal that was set out for each doctor, and she makes it her personal mission. As she said, she doesn't even leave the practice until that's filled, that schedule is hitting the goal of the practice, because she genuinely cares that much as an employee. Now it's important to mention too, Michelle is not invested in the company as like somebody who's getting a kickback of profit of the business. She's not a shareholder in the company. She does this because she's a unicorn of an employee and she's
No.
really accountable to her job. Now, that being said, we do know that it's important to
Yeah.
compensate people well for what they do. But I think what you're talking about in terms of your systems is you're running a lot of the managerial side of production reports and you know where the practice is at all the time in terms of those goals for the doctor.
Yeah, I'm not by no means a manager because I want to do a really good job as a treatment coordinator, and if I get into too many other things, I'm gonna I'm not great at doing 100 different things.
Yes.
So I try to stick with what I know, leave the management up to somebody else who does a great job. But I do get I I like numbers, and um, I like helping my doctors be successful. That's what I enjoy, and I like making people money.
Yeah, you do. And I feel like
I don't know why, but I do.
you're the balancer though, because you like to help people achieve these beautiful smiles. So you're not doing it because you're trying to like run for
Well,
production
no,
and
I
do
mean,
things the
the main
wrong
reason I
way.
do this, right? That's right. The I mean, I told you I jump out of bed every day and think, who am I going to help today? Because it it really is. I feel like me going into work and being there for people to talk to about what treatments they're interested in, that's what gets me out of bed every day. I love it. And I just every single person I meet brings me a new surprise and a new joy, you know?
You've been like this
So
forever though too. I love it because like your spark just never changes. Like you're always still so
I
positive
know
and like you've worked with
even
people for years
you
and you just love it.
find something that you love and you just do it. Yeah.
So what would you say if a patient tells you I need to think about it? What do you do in that scenario?
I encourage them to think about it. I say, absolutely, I want you to go home. I don't want you to make any decision today. If you're not ready, I want you to think about it, talk to your husband about it, bring your husband back with you. Because a lot of them will say, when they come in for their treatment consult, they'll say, I need to talk to my husband. Because if it's a lot of money, that it is a family decision that they have to make. So um, I will bring them back for another consult and I ask them to bring the husband. It saying no the first time isn't you've planted your seed. You're they're going to say yes eventually. That's what I always believe. If I don't get them scheduled today, it might be tomorrow or it might be in 6 months. They're going to come back, and they always do. And when they come back with their husband, a lot of times um, it just makes it so much easier because then they're not going home and forgetting what we told them.
Mhm.
They're there to hear everything about the treatment.
Yeah, and I think this is so important because we talked about like the patient experience. Like you're not rushing them, you're not putting pressure on them, you're giving them a full informed option
No.
or two options and they get to go home and think about it and take their time, and this is why your success rate is so high because you're giving people the ability to really think this through and not feel like this is all about the money.
Mhm.
And those are the people we want to invest our money with. Ultimately, we're going to be like, you know what, this feels really good, this feels really natural, I feel like I have a support person here, and they're not pushing me to do something today or tomorrow. They're going to be there in 6 months. If I say to you, I'm not financially able to do this for another 6 months, you would just follow up in 6 months. So there's not this pressure cooker experience for the patient. And I think that this is really what you are doing at your practice, is you're really giving the people the options with the finances, but also giving them the time to really think this through.
And we do have, so for those people, I send them out a text message 2 days after. And in my text message, I'll say, um, do you have any more questions that you'd like to ask? I know that was a lot of information. It can be very overwhelming. And I'd like you to reach out to me. Here's my direct line to call me. So they've got that personal contact. So they don't have to call the front desk. They can call and speak directly to me. Um, and they usually always, if I don't get them a text message, then I wait 2 weeks and they get a phone call. And then in 2 weeks, if they don't respond, they get an email. So there very few times do I ever have to send an email because they usually leave well informed. They're just on the cusp, so they call and they book.
Yeah, and I've seen it. I mean, you're just so good with people in general. So, I mean, there's that aspect to it. But I think if you could give any advice to somebody who maybe had a lower case acceptance or a treatment plan coordinator that was really struggling to get these people locked in, what would be kind of the one piece of advice you would give to them?
I would want to look at why they're not scheduling. I would think that something has to be tweaked a little on their delivery,
Hmm.
or um, not everybody's great at presenting treatment. Find that person that's really good at presenting the treatment. and maybe maybe the doctor needs a little coaching on, um, presenting cases.
Yeah, what would you do in that scenario if you felt that there was a particular doctor that their treatment plan approach was acceptable and right on par with what, they should be receiving, but they're just not getting case acceptance because of the delivery of the information? Like, would you directly talk to the doctor yourself, or would you involve a management team? Like, what would that look like for you?
It would probably, we do have a team, and when we get our new doctors coming in, they're not really taught how to do that in dental
Hmm.
school. So that's all kind of taught. It's part of our program, um, and we help them get better at that. So it's something that not everybody is good at the beginning. But I think, sometimes maybe they're talking behind their head and they're not sitting in front where the
Mm,
patient's making eye contact, and having that conversation. Maybe they're not showing them x-rays. Yeah, like help the patient understand what they need
yeah, I
is
think that's
key.
really important. I think for you, you're kind of hitting the nail on the head. It's not always what we don't necessarily say or do. Sometimes it's how we're presenting it is, like you said, eye contact. Are we making sure we're, knee to knee with the patient, having that discussion so they're actually hearing what you're saying? Because sometimes it's just lingo that they're hearing behind them and they don't really know if they're being spoke to directly or if it's the doctor speaking with the dental assistant. So some of that stuff could be presented and the patients are just not absorbing it in the right way that they otherwise would. So I think that those are some really great things to kind of look at. And as you
And one
mentioned,
way is you can, I was going to say, like, tracking the cases that you present and the
mm,
percent that book is really important. And so that you can see if it's low, then you've got to start working on something else. Um, it could be the financial part, like it could be something at the front desk. It could be something, you got to kind of just find that area that is making the case acceptance low.
yeah, and that's my whole goal is to teach other people, owners, doctors, the systems. Like there needs to be a system and a tracking method because if we don't have that, we don't know how well we're doing. And we also don't know what to fix or where to fix it. So I think that that's really important to make sure we're
Yeah,
honing in on those specifics.
like I like to know how much treatment is scheduled out, because there's a certain number I like to see to know that we're on track. I like to know, like, I'm constantly running in and checking those numbers to see where we're at, because and it's important for the staff to understand the numbers too,
Hmm.
so that we can all get to that doctor's goal. Or um, yeah, like I love it. I love knowing what the numbers are.
And not everybody is like that. So I'd love for you because you're an employee. I mean, it comes from a different perspective when I talk about it as an owner, but from an employee's perspective, I was like this when we worked
Right.
together as an employee too. I love the numbers. But from your perspective, why is it important for the employees to understand that? Because a lot of people, not everybody, but some people will say, like, that's not really my problem. I don't need to look at the production. I'm just here to
Well,
do my job and go home.
well, I have
What,
to say,
yeah, what would you say in those scenarios?
I feel like I just feel like I don't understand why they wouldn't want to know, because that's how we do a good job for the
Yeah.
company, right? Like, if you're not interested in getting the best production, um, I mean, this is what puts food on everybody's table. So I don't understand why
Yeah.
you don't want to know this.
I think it gets lost. I think people just think that they should be paid a
Yeah.
great wage and a livable wage, which I agree with, but they don't want to have the accountability and responsibility of saying they're doing something the same, different, or under what somebody else is billing and providing. And I think we are in this weird netherworld of like healthcare. So, dentistry falls into small business and healthcare and they're combined. And in Canada, as we know with healthcare, it's funded by the government
I
here.
think it should be free.
Right. And they look at it
Mhm.
as, like you had mentioned before, insurance based. Everything here should be covered if it's healthcare. And if it's not covered, is it really necessary? And I think that that's a huge flaw in the development. I mean, we did launch a really great dental program here. So that is helping people with access to care, which I love. But I think that there's still this mindset here that's really, even for the employee side, because we've been so built to think about healthcare as being something that's free and covered, that when we become an employee in one of these industries, we think that that should just be incorporated and the costs are just kind of as if it is at a hospital and they're just absorbed by the government, which is not the case. These are small businesses. It runs just like any other boutique shop or operation. So I think that that's super important that your team looks at that and that you actually bring this in. And that's probably why you are so successful doing what you are doing, because it's a tangible, achievable goal that you're looking at and you know what that measuring tool is. And Michelle, if you didn't have that measuring tool goal, would you be doing the same work that you're doing, or you would have no idea?
I would have no idea, but it was, I didn't understand it at first when I started there, and then I started asking questions and learning it because I wanted to know, and they were right on board with showing me, um, what the numbers were, and they want everybody to do, to know what's going on. So
Yes.
it's no secret. You can look anytime you want.
And I think
Just
that's great. Like, and I think that's a really important thing for you to bring up to people. If you are an office owner, share these numbers with your team. It doesn't need to be secretive. We allow
yeah,
access to our employees can check their billings at any point in time. They can have conversations with me at any point in time. And if they want to have a raise, and you and I have had multiple conversations about this outside of the podcast, if people want to have a raise, they need to be bringing something to the table other than 365 days of the year have went by. There needs to be some proof in the pudding that this is
right.
what they're doing. And I love that you do that. Like you are able to go to your boss and say, like, here's what I'm providing the practice, and like this is what would really help me out. And you can have those open dialogue with your employer. And I know as an employer, I love that. I love that type
Hmm.
of conversation. And do you find as an employee that's really empowering?
Well, I would personally never ever ask for a raise unless I knew why I deserved it. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like,
Hmm.
I would never ask unless I deserved it.
Yeah.
So when I started, I took a very low wage because I knew I had to prove myself. That's what I was taught. Like, by Don,
Yes.
he never asked for a raise.
Yeah.
You had to prove it, and then he'd pat you on the back and say,
I
so
love John
yeah, that's
Foster.
just how I was brought up.
I know.
I know.
He instilled a
I
lot of
know.
magic in us. I feel like he was such a cool
We
owner
we
and
got
boss.
mad at him a lot of times.
We did. Yeah. I like honestly,
Yeah.
Michelle, now looking back, like I think it's so, but you know what? The thing with Don is we could always go to him and there was always an open dialogue and you could have a
Yeah.
conversation with him. And, I really valued that. And I still, like to this day, credit him for so much of my success in my career and knowledge around how to run a business. But, he was hard on us at times. It's like you really had to prove yourself
Yeah.
to be
He
able to
sure
get to that next
was.
level. Yeah. And Michelle and I had worked together for what, 15 years? Like
Yeah.
it was a long time we've been together. And
Yeah.
yeah, there was a lot of, lunch drives with the headache happening because we didn't know what was going
The
on.
Dairy
And
Queen drive-throughs.
the Dairy Queen drive through to get that blizzard that we needed. But yeah, it's looking back, and it's such he
Yeah.
created such a unique dynamic, and I think that your office has also like cultivated that sort of culture. I've created a very similar culture in my practice, and there's something to be said with that. It's okay to be nice, but it also needs to have business principles and make financial sense. And you have been able to do both
And
of those.
Don Foster he was strict. Like but we still
Loved him.
loved him to death, you know?
We still do. Yeah.
He didn't let us get away with anything.
No.
Yeah, so I don't think you have to be like too nice.
Yeah. He was
There have to be
very,
boundaries.
yeah, he was very straight with what he was the expectations. But he also was very appreciative. And I think the one thing from him too is he did let us kind of like have fun at work instead of being like riding our butts about, if we had a conversation and we're sitting around for a bit, like grabbing a coffee, like nobody was on us, like yelling at us and, saying we weren't allowed to take a break for a minute. As long as we were effective in getting our jobs done, I feel like he did let us enjoy the workplace. You know what I mean? Like I really liked that about working
He
there.
did. He
He
did.
liked us having fun, he liked the
Yeah.
giggles happening around the practice and made the patients feel the dynamic of the office was fun and
Well, because
inviting.
if and you let your staff bond, which I think is really important.
Mhm.
Everybody loves going to work every day.
Mhm.
We did.
We loved it. We got to work with our best friends. And he
Yeah.
created something that he should be so proud of, because
Yeah.
even when we go home, and all of us live in different places now, but when we go home, we all still make a point to get together. And, we still have
Yeah.
friendships and relationships that have lasted years and years after there, because, it was such a fun place to work. And I think that that's something that the patients feel, and they have a different experience coming in, because all of your team members at that point want to help each other. And, if somebody is running behind, their friend is going to
That
step in
is
and help
very
them
true.
out. Yeah, like it's curating that
Yeah.
environment for the team to feel really supported. And also, they're having fun. The patients, they can tense, they can feel that tension in the office, or they can feel that fun vibe. And I think that that creates a lot of dynamics when
That's
you're working with a big group of people.
that's the one thing. Like our office is massive, um, but the one thing that helps me tremendously sell good treatment is my team.
Mm,
And it's not I don't do it alone. It is the doctors, it's the assistants, it's the person that answers the phone. It's a team effort
hmm.
that brings the success. It's not it's a whole number of things that all work together.
Yeah, I agree with that. I love that. And I think, you know what, Michelle, we probably should have you back if you're wanting to come back on. We'll take some questions from people and kind of see what they have to ask you.
That'd be
And
fun.
yeah, then we can come back and do kind of like a
Yeah.
Q&A and answer some of the questions that the podcast audience has for you. Because I know for me, I've worked with you for so long that like I know you, so I might be missing some of those key fun elements that people want to know. So we'll kind of do a poll to see if anybody wants to ask you some questions, bring you back, go over that, and yeah, have some fun again, because I love having you on here, and you're just so skilled, and your heart is pure gold, and I'm just so happy that you were able to do this with me, and I miss working with you every day.
Oh, I love it.
We had so much fun together,
I love
and
it. I
I
know.
also love that we're still as close as we are, like years later. It's amazing, So Michelle, she's in the US. I'm now in
It'll
the
never
East Coast of
change.
Canada, and we still make sure that, when we talk, it's like no time has passed. So I love that.
Me too.
All right, Michelle, thank you for being here, and we will get talking to you soon.
Okay, bye. Love you.
Bye. Love you. And if you guys want to check Michelle out, where can they find you on Instagram or socials if they have any questions directly for you? Facebook, Instagram,
Maybe
email,
Facebook?
Facebook,
Yeah.
Michelle Jones. All right. You heard it,
Whatever they
Michelle
want.
Jones.
Whatever's easy.
Or you can reach out to me and I will find the answers for you because she's coming back. All right, guys. Thanks so much for this exciting episode, and we will see you next week. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to Dentistry to Business. If today's episode sparked an idea or inspired you, don't forget to share with your team or fellow dental leader. Let's keep elevating the business of dentistry together. For more insights, resources, and updates, follow me on Instagram at CarolineBelmintern and contact me and find my services at www.carolinebelmintern.com. That's www.CarolineBelmintern.com. Until next time, keep leading with data and driving your practice forward. Bye.